Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. And this is Franz Sidney with Create with Franz. And welcome to the show to our friend Stephanie Laidlow. Hello.
Hello, nice to see you again.
I know, right? It's so good to see you. And today, guys, we're going to have this amazing hypnotherapist using advanced conversational hypnosis to go back to the root cause of a lot of things that are happening in our life. Sometimes we think, oh, I have this problem, I have that problem, and that's the tip of the iceberg. So we're going to start. This is about stress and about relationship and about one symptom, one possible symptom. And the symptom was grinding your teeth while you are sleeping. Now, normally you will go to the dentist and he will give you a guard. Of course, that's gonna, it's gonna help. But what if that was not the issue? There was something else. So I would like Stephanie to really delve into this story and tell us what was going on there. What was the client talking about? Because I'm sure a lot of people here have this issue. They're like, oh, I feel very tense and I'm grinding my teeth. So the
Yeah,
space is all yours. This is so good.
yeah,
It's such a great story.
right. So, as I mentioned, I have TMJ. So, when I posted on Facebook that I had been a participant in therapy with someone who practices the advanced conversational hypnosis, that I was able to get some relief from that and, just shared like what that was like. And this woman reached out to me and asked me if I would be able to help her. And we had a couple sessions together. And it was really interesting because, of course, she's coming for this physical symptom and it's causing her to lose sleep. And, there's pain involved and headaches and all of that. And so her thought was that we would just do some relaxation stuff and she would feel better and I would just tell her that she was no longer going to grind at night and like a lot of the sort of traditional thinking around hypnosis. And what we really ended up doing was really digging down and figuring out what was at the root of why she was grinding and why she was holding so much of her tension there, because the body keeps the score, as you know. And so it was what came up for her was a lot of repressed resentment, unspoken issues in their relationship, because for years she had tried to sort of share with her partner how she was feeling and was constantly being shut down. And so after a while, she just kind of stopped. But of course, she was holding on to it there.
So repressed emotions.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, isn't it? And how many people are walking around with repressed emotions? And just this
Probably
morning,
most
I
of
was
us.
reading, sorry for that, about a woman who is in the middle of a very difficult family situation, and she's going to be thrown out of a house with 3 kids. And she was saying, I'm so anxious. And she was saying all the symptoms that were happening, even the asthma that she has is getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're anxious, worried, and she was saying the anger I have is so much and it's causing, and she was listing all these problems.
Right.
So at least she was able to realize that there was a reason for that. But so what is your suggestion when a person cannot really point out why why they have a symptom? If they're kind of lost, where should they go to find these solutions? Because you are able very quickly, one session, but what if a person doesn't know that they
Well,
could have
so
hypnosis?
most people don't know, right? Most people don't know that the reason why they have stomach issues is related to their anxiety, or that the headaches that they get, when they actually look at what's going on and see the patterns, then there's this aha moment, right? But most people don't see patterns in their own life, either just because there's a little bit of dissociation going on, right? We don't want to see the patterns because then we have to address the patterns, right? Because then we have to own some of the patterns, and that's challenging, right? So a lot of times they just don't recognize, and the way that the medical industry or the whole system is set up is that everything's individualized and everything is compartmentalized. So if you have an issue with your stomach and you go to the doctor about it, the doctor's only going to focus on trying to relieve the symptoms. They're not going to ask you anything about your life, what kind of stress you're under, what you do to relieve your stress, who do you have to talk to about your stress. They don't ask any of that. They just fix the physical issue and completely ignore the fact that it's all related. It's all connected. We're one whole being, right? So we have to treat that holistically.
Yes. I'm so glad that recently more and more doctors are realizing that there is this massive connection between the body and the emotion. Even Huberman Lab, you hear him saying, well, here it is. And, the placebo effect, the nocebo, it's all connected because we can measure the result even with Parkinson. So you have this very low dopamine, and then you give this pill that has nothing in. You have a control group and the people that have something there. And they see the people that are given them this pill telling them, oh yeah, all the symptoms of Parkinson are going to be much better. You are scanning the brain and the dopamine is going up.
Right.
And it's a placebo.
Yeah.
So there is this huge connection, isn't it? We can use it to our own, how do you say, advantage.
Right.
So that we can address the problem. And I think it's quite utilitarian. We're very practical. Oh, I have a headache, so I get a painkiller, or I have a backache, I get a painkiller. Instead of addressing maybe the posture wasn't right, you can have a headache because of eye strain, for example. So just having a painkiller, yes, it will dull the pain, but it will upset your gut flora. So you're pushing one end and you're upsetting.
Yeah, the cure isn't always better than the actual thing.
Yeah, so
right?
it's a great idea to look deeper and see. I think that we are in a self-protective mechanism because humans don't like change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we find it very
of
difficult.
course. I mean, it makes sense. When you think about how stressed people are these days and how unstable the ground already feels under most people, change is going to disrupt any kind of balance that they have in their lives. And that's going to throw everything off. So who wouldn't resist that, right? I mean, that's just self-preservation. Makes sense.
It is. So let's go into the tip area. I love to leave my audience knowing that they have something out of every episode. So a person starts having really weird, non-disconnected symptoms, and they can't put them together. They can't work out what it is. They don't even know what to say to the doctor. Just, I'm feeling like this, I'm feeling like that. So how should they look at them? And what would be the first step to start to see them as a full image?
Well, so I think, I mean, ideally, if someone's got symptoms that are just kind of all over the place, it would involve a team effort to try to figure out how to help this person. So if you go see your GP and you're explaining all of these things to them, and they'll pick one or two, like they'll probably ask you to, well, what's the thing that's bothering you the most? And you could be like, well, I get migraines every day and my stomach's upset. And so they write a couple scripts and they say, here, go do this. And then they might say, well, let's refer you for some tests and that sort of thing. But that really misses an opportunity, like I said, like to address what's going on for that person mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so in an ideal situation, in a perfect world, a person would go see their healthcare provider, and through that, visit, they would be seen by other people who have different specialties in helping a person achieve overall wellness. Right? So that we're not just treating symptoms, that we could help them maybe with their diet and exercise, and maybe, help them with their mental health and mindfulness practices and things like that. Like we could have like a holistic approach. And I think that some modalities are a little bit more, that they're more in line with that. But the problem is that it seems to be an all or nothing. It's like, well, it's either based on the medical model or it's not. And so those two don't often mix, right? So there's a lot of people who are like, anti-naturopathic doctors. And then there's people who will swear by a naturopathic doctor and they won't go see the traditional medical doctor. You know what I mean? So, and yet I feel like I'm going to go see both. And I'm also going to talk to my therapist. And I'm also going to look at my diet. And I'm also going to think, well, what have I done for movement this week? And, how am I feeling spiritually? How connected am I feeling? All of those things. But most people are just looking, well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, most people would like a quick fix, but I think most people are in so much pain that they're just looking for some relief and they're willing to take whatever they can get. And so it's not entirely their fault.
Yeah.
Because it's what's being offered.
Yeah, it's also a bit of a mindset. I don't want to give a really strange example, but if you have a car and the car is not doing well, you wouldn't dream of going to the tire place all the time. You hear the engine is not going, you're not going, oh no, I'm just gonna go with the tire place because that's where people go. Or yeah, if the engine not going, all I have to do is put more fuel, more fuel. No, you will go and have a garage where they understand the whole thing with a car. They can still miss it. You might actually give it to a friend who knows how a car is supposed to, and it will listen and say, this noise could be that, could be that, could be that. So you listen to lots of things. Then maybe your closest person in the family say, can't you see this happened before? You have something banging inside your wheels. And that happened to me once. I was driving. I thought, my gosh, what is this noise? My car is breaking into pieces. And it turned out, I stopped at the garage, and it turned out there was a stone from my gravel in my garden. It was stuck in the wheel, and it was getting caught up in. And they just knew where to look because they are so good. And because of that, it's so good to go to a doctor, to a psychologist, to a therapist, to a hypnotherapist, to whatever we think it might address the problem, looking at the holistic way instead of just be like, oh no, I do not trust the doctors or those conspiracy theories. And it doesn't seem to be like that.
Exactly. Yeah, because especially when it comes to mental health, I don't feel like, there's a one size fits all. And I don't think that there's like this magic pill that a person can take. So that even if a person comes to me and we do get to that root cause, what we might also discover is that this person still needs resources, right? So that they might discover that part of the reason why they are, clenching their jaw at night or overeating or whatever their symptom is, they might actually get to the root of it and discover that, it goes back to feeling unheard in their childhood or in previous relationships or whatever. And that can be really useful knowledge, and it can really help integrate for them what they've been experiencing. But then they also might discover that they lack communication skills in order to stand up for themselves. So they might, discover this power within themselves and be like, I feel really empowered. I know that I have a voice, but now I need to learn how to communicate effectively. Well, that's a whole different resource that's needed, right? And I'm not the person who's necessarily going to provide that for them because, my thing was to help them discover themselves.
Yes.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. It's also very good for us as therapists or coaches or whatever to say, I'm going to refer you. Because now we found out this, where actually you need to see a chiropractor for this. So you need to see maybe a person that is specialized in this because we think is actually that problem, So it's that humility, knowing that's past my level of expertise. You need somebody who really knows this topic and be open to understand. Sometimes we have the wildest symptoms and have nothing to do with the symptom. It's not about the stomach or about the eye. I even remember when I trained with RTT, one of our ladies, I think it was Chris Davis, she was saying she had the eyesight was going so bad. She was becoming almost blind. She was getting worse and worse and worse. The eyes were just not good. And she had this session, RTT session, so rapid transformational therapy. And her vision just had a huge turn and became perfect. And what it came out, if I remember well, it was 4 or 5 years ago now. It was because she kept saying to herself, "Oh, I can't see this anymore. I can't see this anymore." And the body
Right.
took her very seriously. I can't see.
Yeah, the body will listen to you. Funny
Yeah.
how that is. So if it will listen to those things that have a negative impact on you ultimately, we have to believe that they could listen to those things that would have a positive impact. Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will, because I talk about mantras and affirmations and stuff like that. And it's not like I feel like if you do this every single day, multiple times a day, you'll be cured and everything will be fine with you. And don't worry about doing therapy because you just need to mantra your way into better health. It doesn't work that way, but it's just like one tool. And the reason it's a tool is because they have actually shown that it can help rewire your brain and it can help, calm your nervous system, right? So we know that scientifically that it has a positive effect.
Mm-hmm.
And if it works for people and if it's something that they actually will utilize, why wouldn't we do that, right? So it's, the power of the mind goes both ways. But
Yeah.
I think most people assume that it's just a one-way kind of thing, right? That we have no control over it, no power. And then that leads to a feeling of powerlessness and hopelessness. And I think that's probably a big, deterrent to people feeling like they could get better.
Yes. And if you think about it, we think, oh, we don't have a power to use affirmations to get better because it's all fluff. You guys, alternative therapy. But guess what? By saying that, you are allowing your own internal chatter and the criticism of other people to be your mantra, to be your affirmation. You're listening to
Right.
these people putting you down. I hear a lot
Right.
of husbands putting down the wife and repeating, "You're not as good, you're not as clever, you don't have my MBA, you're not
Yeah.
as whatever." And friends, social media, they're constantly telling us what we are supposed to be like, looking like, what we should be thinking, because otherwise we're wrong. So this is a
Right.
mantra, this is an affirmation that goes on for a whole day, and
Right.
sometimes isn't very positive. So it's working, which is
Yeah.
why many of us feel defeated and low. And some of us are, probably we have a highest degree and PhD in telling ourselves how bad we are
Yeah.
and how we're gonna fail. We are proof
Right.
how good this is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so for me, because I deal with women who have been in toxic relationships and oftentimes with narcissistic type people, the messaging to them through the course of their whole relationship, either overtly or, subtly or covertly, is that they aren't good enough and they're not worthy of love. And so if the messaging within the relationship is that, and then the messaging within their own mind is that, it's really hard to break through that messaging to get people to really recognize that they are worthy of love and they are deserving of being treated respectfully and safely, right? So there's this constant bombardment of the negativity. And I think for most people, that's just really, really hard to fight against. And then if you're in this type of relationship, it becomes almost impossible.
Yeah.
Right.
We could do a whole episode on narcissism, but I think I have
Oh.
somebody else lined up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have friends
Yeah.
stuck in the position, and you don't envy them because the narcissist is there to destroy you. He doesn't have
Right.
empathy or anything. So
Right.
you have to get enough self-confidence to walk out as safely as possible, smoothly as possible, because they're just gonna unleash and make you think you are a total failure as a human being, and nobody has the right to speak to anyone like that, isn't it?
Right. And you don't even have to be in a relationship with a narcissist to experience that, right?
But
I
I could be the
see
boss.
a lot of, well, yeah, but I see a lot of people in relationships where, for whatever reason, their partner is not capable of giving them what they need. And it's not that they're being selfish and it's not that they don't care. It's just that for whatever reason, their own mental health or whatever. They're just not capable. And so that's a different level. So it's not as manipulative. It's not as selfish and lacking in empathy as you would see with a narcissist. So, you know, I guess the statistic is like they think 1 in 6 people are narcissists. I mean, that leaves a whole lot of other people who are in unhappy, unfulfilled relationships with people who they would maybe describe as selfish and uncaring, and even use the term narcissist, but it doesn't actually fit. They just have that overlap of, you know, crappiness.
Yeah. It's more a spectrum. I don't know if you watched,
Right.
there was the Diary of a CEO last week, and they were interviewing a notable psychiatrist or whatever, lady.
Ramani?
Yeah, I think it's her.
Ramana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard,
Yeah.
I listened to all 1 in 6. I was like, wow, it's quite a spectrum.
Yeah.
But it makes you really think, wow, if we are growing like that, what kind of parents did they have? Which,
Right.
you know, they created this environment where the child wasn't having this love. It was very conditional love or was total neglect or whatever.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, wow, if we have so many people around like that, then we really have to think how to deal with it. And therefore, yes, you might be thinking, oh, I got these symptoms, that symptom, and then actually it comes back to how you're dealing with your boss or your husband or wife who are having or displaying these narcissist traits, and they're making you feel like something is totally wrong with you, you know,
Right.
and you might be physically sick. And as I know from friends dealing with this, really high pressure, there's no point that the doctor gives you a pill for that.
It's not going to fix it.
Because the root cause is your other half is unleashing like mad and lying and betraying, and you just don't know what to do anymore. So it's very physical.
Well, and even if you're in a relationship with someone who's not lying and cheating and manipulative, but they're just not there, they're just not present in the relationship, then it's like it's that betrayal of trust, right? I signed on in this relationship with you because you said that you would be there for me, and you're not. So there's that betrayal. And so if over and over and over again you're looking to your partner for something, whether it's, you know, comfort or safety, or, you know, just feel heard, and your partner's not capable of showing up for you, it might not be that they're just, you know, that they don't care. It's that they're not capable. And that's different. And I think that, I mean, it still needs to be addressed within the person who's in that relationship with them. But I think we can use a lot more compassion, and we can still hang on to that hope. Whereas I think with the narcissist, like what she was saying in that interview that you're talking about, was that if your partner is a narcissist, like a true narcissist, there is no hope of that person changing, right? So I think that's where my work is a little bit different, in that I'm not necessarily the narcissist expert. I'm more like, you know, the toxic person who isn't necessarily narcissistic, but who certainly isn't showing up for their partner in, you know, in real meaningful ways, and what that does to a person over time. It just wears them down and has them self-doubting all the time.
Yeah, which is a terrible thing if you're then becoming insecure, etc. And we could go on and on, guys, but our half an hour is gone. So I want to thank you so much, for this amazing conversation. I learned a lot, and I hope you guys have learned, and you want to look down below. There will be some links for Stephanie Laidlow, and see what she does. If you want to ask any more questions, you're free to do so. If you have any weird symptoms and you're feeling like you're grinding your teeth, right?
Can't sleep, grinding your teeth, maybe overeating, not eating enough. I mean, the symptoms are different for every single person. But I think if you're unhappy in your relationship and feeling like you're not being seen and heard and valued, then that's what I help with.
Yeah, that's your real good specialism, to see the whole thing. So thank you so much, relationship expert and hypnotherapist, advanced conversational hypnosis, Stephanie Laidlow. Did I say this correctly?
Law. Yeah. It's sort of like lay down the law.
Laid Low.
But that could just be an accent thing.
Yeah, Laidlow. Well, that's an Italian accent here, see?
Yes, yes.
Sounds so good. Well,
so maybe everyone in Italy would pronounce it that way.
Yeah, I don't know, because I am in England, so I don't know how Italians would do, because I've been out for a long 30 years. So I don't know what they would say. I'm gonna find out. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Stephanie. And please share this episode with your friends so they can learn something interesting about the connection between mind, body, spirit, and funny symptoms as related to relationships. So thank you everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.